guys, today we're going to be talking about gimbals, specifically for MTB riding and filming, and whether or not they're worth the cost. Lou and I both ride with gimbals about 9% of the time. The 10% of the time is usually when I've forgotten to charge my batteries or there's been a slight problem. We'll talk more about that later. We both ride with the Bayutech WG model, which is great, and we really like this. This video is going to be looking less about reviewing this model of gimbal and more about gimbals in general, whether or not you want to buy one, the pros and cons of gimbals in general. So first of all, we're going to compare some footage which I took at Antur Stiniog of me going down the Blue Run Jimper. One run is with a gimbal, one run is without a gimbal, and we're going to be looking at the sort of differences between them. Let's check out the non-gimbal footage first. Here we go. So as you can quite clearly see in this footage, it is really shaky. Antur Stiniog's a pretty rocky place, but these weren't like rocks as big as we had in Spain, for example. And you can see that the GoPro is struggling to sort of stay central. It moves about in the chest mount, and the footage doesn't sort of remain smooth. My main problem with the shakiness is that it doesn't look very nice. The camera's moving out of frame, you can see different parts coming in and out. If you're trying to focus on something that's in the distance, or if you're trying to look at what's being tackled, with it moving around all the time, it kind of makes me feel a bit seasick, and I know that other people have said this as well. So let's have a look at the gimbal footage. Okay, so there is a very noticeable difference straight away. The gimbal footage in comparison to the non-gimbal footage is far less shaky. Obviously you can see that the angle's not great in the clips that I've shown, but that's down to user error, I might add. The main thing to note, as I said, is it's a lot less shaky. As you go around the corners, small corners at least, it keeps it steady, it follows you around nicely, whereas on the GoPro it's just constantly shaking and you can't really tell. As you can notice on that bit where I ride across a few bumpy rocks all in a line, the sort of slabby looking ones, they're actually quite bumpy, I must add. The non-gimbal footage was all over the place, whereas the gimbal footage was actually quite smooth all the way through. And I will admit, it doesn't take away all of the shaking, but it's a crazy amount better. It's not just a little less shaky, it is almost not shaky at all. So for me and Lou, the reason why we do that is for those reasons. It creates much nicer, smooth flowing footage that isn't shaky, it doesn't make me feel seasick. I think you just get a better viewing experience when watching it back. Having said that, I did go on about user error. The reason why the angle on that footage there isn't great is because as I went over a jump, I think I hadn't tightened up this part here into the chest mount properly. So as I went over the double, it sort of loosened it, which changed the angle of this part of the gimbal. Nothing to do with this bit, it was this part. It went from being nice and straight to being bent down like that, which would have caused the gimbal to sort of slightly look upward a little bit more than it was. However, even with that issue, the footage was still okay and very usable, and I'd much rather use that footage than the non-gimbal footage. As you may have seen on the channel, we've also had a few issues with gimbals in the past, mainly with, like I said earlier, batteries running out. That's my fault. Like I said, user error, my fault. The other problems we've had, not user error, is when we're in Spain, and it's happened a couple of times since, is where the gimbal sort of just stops working altogether and just starts spinning around mad like this, like it's lost its balance. or it holds it in the wrong position and it just sort of looks at you upwards, and every time you try and change it back, it won't go back, and it sort of becomes a 1-axis or a 2-axis gimbal instead of the 3-axis gimbal, which is kind of what you want. That's problems with the electrics inside getting tangled up essentially, and it is a relatively quick fix. You just need a tiny screwdriver. You just undo the sort of the screws that hold it together, and you might have to untangle some wires. It was a 5-minute job when it happened to me, and it hasn't done it since, so that's good. But the other thing is, when you go around some tight corners, as I'll show you in this clip, you can see that the GoPro doesn't, the gimbal doesn't keep up fast enough in this sense. So if you're going around a tight corner, you can see it sort of looks out and it takes a long way to come back round. That doesn't always happen, but occasionally it does. And it sort of takes away from the flow of the run in that sense. I mean, we rarely film from top to bottom runs all in one, where it's just one clip. It's not something we really do. We like to clip it apart and fit it to the music, and rather than just having the raw footage from top to bottom. As we just find that a little bit more interesting, a bit more exciting, because every route's got sections which are not as exciting as other parts. So is it really worth it for you? Like I said, we get these because we really like the sort of smooth, flowy footage that you get from it, and we like our videos to look as professional as we can make them. And we are improving at this all the time, and the gimbal does definitely help that. But I paid £230 for this gimbal, which is a lot of money that could have been put on the bike. And I think I would advise people, if they want to if they really want to take their filming seriously, and they want to work with brands, or they want to become an ambassador for someone, or they want to become a filmer themselves, this would be a great idea. It gives you the better footage you want, it makes you look more professional, and I would say it's a bit more of an investment rather than just a waste of money. If you're just wanting to get a few shots, stick them up on Instagram, and you're just doing it for a bit of a laugh, and you just like to look at what you've been riding, I would probably say it's not worth the money for it. So I would say if you want to set up a YouTube channel, become a vlogger, or you want to make edits for a company or anything like that, I would say this gives you the better chance. Companies are more likely to look at your footage and think, this looks good. If you're not wanting to do that, probably not for you. All in all, I think gimbals are great. I'm very glad I bought this. I love the footage that helps to produce. And I would recommend this to anybody that wants to get into the YouTube scene, the vlogging scene, stuff like that. With regards to modern GoPros, the GoPro 6, I think the 5 has it as well, with the image stabilization. I haven't actually seen that. I can't comment on how good it is. People that I've spoken to have said it's decent, but not as good as a gimbal. But like I said, I haven't actually witnessed any footage from a GoPro 6 yet without a gimbal, just using the sort of software image stabilization. However, I'd very much like to do so. This GoPro won't last me forever, and eventually I will have to upgrade. So who knows, maybe I can do a comparison video in the future whether gimbal is better than image stabilization. Thanks for watching, hope you enjoyed this one. While the gimbal's on, that screen will always face the same way. Doesn't matter how your body moves, the gimbal will compensate, and it keeps the footage nice and straight. It just keeps it